morning ka, mams. I'm with my hubby, my bana. It's 8:45 in the morning. It's Monday, so we're going to Capas Shrine, one of the landmarks here in Tarlac. It's located in Capas, Tarlac. The American soldiers, together with the Filipino soldiers, walked from Bataan, right? From Bataan to Tarlac. It's called Death March. Thousands of American soldiers as well as Filipino soldiers died during We are now here, Capas National Shrine. Entrance fee is 20 pesos, foreign 40 for foreigners, and students 10 pesos. 40 for car parking and 150 for big cars. There's the military truck. Dito ba kaya yung mga trees na yun? Mga trees na yun. Boxcar. Bataan Death March Boxcar. After the Death March, which claimed many lives, Filipinos and American prisoners of war, having walked 105 kilometers from Maribeles and Bagak, Bataan under the intense April heat, were assembled in San Fernando, Pampanga, and were loaded into boxcars. So this is where the prisoners of war were loaded. This boxcar and many like it were used to transport Filipino and American prisoners of war, the defenders of Bataan and Corregidor, from San Fernando, Pampanga to prison camps in Tarlac, in Capas, Tarlac after the Long March. It was one of the many freight cars of the Manila Railroad Company before the World War II, measuring about 6 feet long, 8 feet wide, and 6 feet high. This boxcar had wooden walls and metal roof. A larger version made of steel was 33 feet long, 7 feet high, and 8 feet wide. At San Fernando, the prisoners were loaded into the boxcars by the Japanese guards, who used their rifle butts and bayonets to squeeze more people than the capacity of the boxcars. 50 to 60 men were forced into this particular type of car. As many as 150 to 160 men were crammed into the larger version of the boxcar. The boxcar so tightly packed that it became impossible to sit down. The only source of ventilation and air was a tiny slit in the door of each boxcar. The car under the sweltering sun rapidly became an oven, and men suffocated in the heat. Those afflicted with dysentery could not control their defecation, and soon The floor of the car was filthy with excrement, urine, and vomit. Many died where they stood in the boxcars. This boxcar is the last known surviving freight car of its kind, and it is a mute witness to the human sacrifice and heroism of all those who were victims of the Bataan Death March. It serves as memorial to the horrors of war and to man's inhumanity to his fellow man. On these hallowed grounds, thousands of U.S. Filipino and American prisoners of war held captives in 1942 to 1943 died of disease, starvation, and neglect. Their remains were unceremoniously dumped and buried in hastily dug common graves within this area. So this is where the Americans and Filipino heroes or soldiers who were victims of Capas prisoners of war were buried. Wrapped in tattered blankets and slung on bamboo poles, their living comrades carried them to the graves in a procession of the dead. From dawn to dusk, available historical records indicate that our approximately 54,000 prisoners of war incarcerated within the Capas Paw camp, a total of 25,000 Filipinos and 2,500 American servicemen were buried in these common graves. In 1946, the United States and Philippine Armed Forces grave registration units started moving the remains of the buried dead to the United States Military Cemetery and the AFP Libingan ng Mga Bayani Cemetery in 4th Bonifacio, Makati, Metro Manila, where their mortal remains finally were laid to rest in peace. Respect for American and Filipino heroes during World War II. So that's it guys for our video for today. I hope you like it. And I feel so grateful as if I went back, had my time travel. Now imagine here is the place where the mass grave happened during the World War II, and there are more than 40,000 soldiers died and thousands American soldiers died during World War II. I think this is called the Bataan Fall, where they walk from Bataan to Capas, Tarlac for days. Some died already during the march, or what we call the death march. And I want to give my respect to all fallen soldiers during the World War II. Bye! Please like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell.